Hi everyone, my name's Christy and I am presenting my older adult video presentation. My interviewee is a friend of mine. Her name is Deb and she is 65 years old. She's the oldest daughter of 6 siblings. She's actually the second oldest child. She has a brother older than herself. That becomes important in a later slide. She's married, currently married, and has 3 adult children. I chose Erickson's stage 8, the final life stage identified in his human development theory. The stage begins at approximately 65 years of age and ends at death, and it is considered a time for reflecting on one's life. It's a time of changing roles due to many people retiring and becoming grandparents and having to determine what it is they do with their life if they do retire. In this case, Deb is not yet retired. She's waiting to do so when her husband retires. He's a couple years younger than her, and so she's waiting for him. It's also a time of declining health and potentially, not always, and a time where there is increased freedom to kind of do the things that maybe you never did, or it's kind of a, hey, if not now, then when, and having the courage to risk things and try things that you might not have tried in your younger years. So some of the difficult life challenges that are faced by Deb that are specific to this stage are the fact that she is currently married to what she calls a controlling, unloving husband. And she feels she can't leave that marriage because of her religious beliefs. In her words, it would mean that she doesn't trust God. She also has an adult son that lives in the home with a challenging medical condition that causes him to have outbursts periodically, and they tend to be aimed at her, which creates some stress in her life. Her husband is not the biological father of this son, and so he tends to look for reasons to blame this son for anything he can find as in an effort to get him out of the house. So that adds stress. And as a result, she has been diagnosed with anxiety and depression, which she sees a therapist for to try and mitigate some of the symptoms. Deb talks about having regret at this point in her life over the inability to understand what she could have done differently to save her first marriage, which was the love of her life. She feels that there's not enough time to create the bond that comes in a new relationship that comes with spending time with somebody with whom you've been with for many years. She doesn't feel she has that much time left, even though she's not that old. And she wishes that she would have maintained her weight a little better than she has, but she also chuckles at the fact that she knows people that are in great shape and yet die young. So she figures, why not just enjoy my life while I can? Some of the accomplishments in her life related to this stage are the fact that at this point she has done a good job. She feels raising her children. She has good relationships with her adult children. She's been fortunate to have a really good career with financial stability. And recently, a recent development is that she's finally emotionally able to live alone. For most of her life, she hasn't felt confident about doing that. So it gives her a great sense of accomplishment at this point, and that is really important considering that she's in a difficult marriage. She feels good about maintaining or about trying to maintain healthy habits despite not reaching her goals. She's very interested in, supplements and chiropractic and acupuncture and that type of thing, as well as making sure that she gets to the gym a few times a week. She has a strong connection to her church and would say that despite wishing she had done a few things differently, primarily the first marriage, She doesn't spend time looking back and regretting the things in her life, and feels that if she were to die tomorrow, she would die peacefully because she knows where she's going. She feels that the older she gets, the more exciting the idea of heaven becomes, as opposed to looking forward to an exciting life on earth. So the crisis of this stage is the integrity versus despair crisis. Like I said earlier, it's a time for reflection and kind of asking the question, did I live a meaningful life? And the resolution of this crisis is, upon reflection, you feel a sense of contentment and fulfillment, and the individual is thought to have achieved ego integrity and wisdom that comes from a life well lived. Conversely, a failure to resolve this crisis would occur if the individual feels, in reflecting on their life, feels regret and that their life was not as they had hoped it would be. So there's a feeling of despair and a mourning for missed opportunities. So some of the biopsychosocial factors and events that may have inhibited Deb's resolution of this crisis include the fact that she was born premature. There was no nurturing in her childhood home, so not only was she not touched or nurtured while she was in the incubator, she also came home as a newborn into a non-nurturing home, and one in which emotions weren't allowed. And that continued until the time she left her childhood home when she was 20 years old. She had parents that were in an unhappy marriage, which she has repeated herself. She has been married 4 times herself, is married to the 4th husband currently, and so obviously 3 divorces previous to that. She realized at the age of 4 that her mother did not like her and carried that with for the rest of her life, and was attempted, her mother died when she was 22, and she attempted to resolve the relationship, to talk to her mom about that on her deathbed, but her mom did not want to talk about their relationship at all. Deb was forced to take on the mothering role at the age of 12, where she was required to watch the younger siblings and cook and clean for the entire family of 8. And she felt a lot of resentment about that towards her mother. And that was one of the things she had hoped to resolve. Well, that and the fact that she never felt that her mother liked her or loved her. Some of the factors that, some of the factors that may have facilitated the resolution of this crisis are that she found comfort in books and success in school, and she talked about, having a lot of peers and not really being a part of the in crowd because she felt that some of them were mean and did weird things, but she was liked by them and got along with them. But she felt that she got along with many of the groups and liked school and felt comfortable all throughout her school time, from kindergarten all the way through high school. She felt confident in her abilities to learn and to have positive interactions with her peers. She also talked about that she feels really blessed and fortunate to have found a successful career that allowed for her to care for herself financially. Her own mother's, she also feels that she learned from her own mother's neglect and dislike of her, which caused her to become a better parent and mother, where she was loving and nurturing. And all of her kids are the same with their children now. So she also is engaged in mental health therapy to work through some of her emotional challenges. And she has a personal relationship with God, where her faith allows her to see herself as God sees her. And so the fact that she came from a family where she felt not loved and not liked and not validated, that could have resulted in very low self-esteem. But in fact, because of her relationship with God, and the fact that she sees herself as He sees her, she actually has fairly healthy sense of self-love. She also has hope for an amazing life after death as a result of her relationship with God. So her mothering role in adolescence also created a strong work ethic that helped her have a successful career, as I mentioned earlier, as well as preparing her to successfully run a household without help from her husband, because she had to do the same when she was an adolescent. So the social learning theory that I chose is the theory that I chose. And this theory says that people don't have to actually perform a behavior themselves to learn from it, but can instead learn by others' successes or failures. So an important aspect of learning is self-efficacy, according to this theory, in which successful experiences are necessary to build self-efficacy, and then the confidence that you feel from those successful experiences causes you to then seek out even more experiences where you can experience success. So it's a cyclical type of thing where one thing leads to the other that brings you back to seeking even more of the same. So two examples of this in Deb's life are of how this theory applies to her life can be found in the fact that, as I previously mentioned, the observation of her own mother's failure to be a nurturing and loving mom actually led Deb to become the type of mom that her mother wasn't. So she learned from her mother's failure. And she also learned from her mother's failure to maintain positive relationships with her children, how to maintain those relationships with her own children, and continues to maintain those relationships into their adulthood now, as well as with her grandchildren. Another example of social learning theory in her life can be found in the fact that she found success in school, which led her to seek additional educational opportunities for learning that eventually led to a successful career that she still excels in even into older adulthood and today. The limitations that I noted regarding Erikson's stage 8 theory is that it doesn't develop the concept that older adults are able to experience continued wisdom, creativity, and growth well into older adulthood up until death, despite earlier unresolved crises in previous states. It also doesn't address the therapeutic interventions such as narrative therapy that can help individuals move from despair into successful crisis resolution during later adulthood, so that even where they haven't been able to resolve it due to unresolved crises in past stages, that can still be addressed. Those things can be addressed in older adulthood. So, and resulting in successful crisis resolution. And last, it doesn't sufficiently develop the concept of how our identity changes and evolves throughout life, particularly in older adulthood as we face changing roles. So this is my reference page, and I thank you for watching my video, and I look forward to learning from all of yours as well.